Okay, on this solo episode of the podcast, I wanted to talk about intuition. If you listen to any of the other podcasts, over and over and over again, women are mentioning their intuition, their gut instinct, their maternal instinct. And some women are like, how do I know? How do I get in touch with that? I don't think I have that. The truth is that every human being has intuition. And the truth is that it comes a little bit easier to women. It is a bit of a feminine quality. And so men have to work a little bit harder to get in touch with it. I think it's for a reason, because for women, because biologically we are the ones who get pregnant and we are the ones who birth the baby into this world. It is part and parcel of that whole experience. You don't only use your intuition in childbirth, you use it in every aspect of your life. And there are things that get in the way of us being in touch with our intuition. And I'll talk a little bit about those. And there are ways to enhance your connection to your intuition. So, what does your intuition even mean? For everyone, it's going to be a little bit different, but I think in our culture, the easiest way to describe it is kind of that gut feeling that you get when you feel like something just isn't quite right, or this feels really good. I don't know why I want to do this, or I don't know why this is the right thing for me, but on some level, I just know that I need to go in this direction. So that is your intuition speaking to you somehow. And it's hard to fully describe it because for every single person, they're going to experience it a little bit different. But I will say it is a embodied experience. So in our culture, since childhood, especially in the school system, we are conditioned to connect to our intellect and our logic over all else. And that's not a bad thing. We need our logic, we need our intellect to navigate through this life. But we also need our intuition. We also need to let our body and the sensations in our body, in our nervous system, to guide us as well. I like to think of it as this supercomputer that has evolved over thousands, millions of years to not only help keep us alive, to help us survive, but to also help us thrive on this journey, in this reality that we inhabit right now. And so when I say that it's an embodied experience, it is because you're going to experience a sensation in your body. And that is different for everyone. For me personally, when something just isn't quite right, I will experience a contraction or how do I say it? It's like a tightening around my heart area, to the left of my chest a little bit. I feel like it's at like the apex of my heart is where I feel when something just isn't quite right. The more I tune into that, specifically right there, and I will feel it in my stomach as well. A lot of people will feel tightening in their abdomen when something isn't right. I used to feel a lot of internal shaking that I would try to hide, but that was hard to decipher whether I was just nervous about something or something just wasn't quite right. Now that I'm tuning more into, is this my intuition? It's more in the heart area for me. And everyone experiences it differently. Like I mentioned, it's a matter of being curious and scanning your body, scanning for sensations to see what it is for you. The reason that I'm even bringing this up, the reason that I'm even recording this podcast is because this helps you incredibly. It is foundational as you are on your fertility journey, your pregnancy journey, definitely in labor and birth and in the postpartum period, on your motherhood journey, on your parenthood journey, just through life. When you are in tune with this, then you are able to make decisions that are more aligned with your path, with who you are, versus making decisions out of fear or what you think you should be doing or what your logic and intellect is telling you to do over what is actually right for you. For me, it's the heart center that I feel it, that tightening when something just isn't quite right. And it's mild. But the more I tune into it, the stronger it gets. So the more that you allow yourself to explore what it is for you, the faster and easier you're going to know when something is right for you and when something isn't right for you. And what decisions you can make from there become so much easier, because again, it is like this supercomputer, because we don't have time to sit down and write like a pros and cons list for every decision when it comes to labor and birth. You can make a birth plan, but sometimes things don't go as expected, and you're going to have to use your intuition to guide you on that journey. You're going to have to use your intuition as to like, how is your body wanting to move? You know, are you going to be able to allow yourself to vocalize? Are you going to put away the people pleasing so you can tell someone what you need? Tell someone to leave if they're making you uncomfortable, because it's just not right for you in that moment. And on the parenting journey, you're going to need to know like, okay, maybe this specialist or this practitioner is telling me that I need to do this. For example, what I was talking about with Dr. Ali Chisholm, maybe they're saying that I need to do a tongue tie release. And that just doesn't feel like the right decision for me and my baby right now. I'm going to try something else first. And if we really need to, then we can explore that option in a bit. So it's going to help you personally as the parent, and it's also going to help your family. Tuning into that space where you feel like, when I feel this certain way, it means that it's most likely a no for me, or that something's just off. And I'm going to pay attention to that, and I'm going to honor that sensation. And when I feel this way, which for me is like, it is like a full body yes. I feel open, I feel expanded. My breath even normalizes. I feel like more settled in my body, and that feels like a good thing for me. That feels like a yes. That feels like the right way to move forward. And it's almost like muscle testing, but you're testing in your whole body. Because on some level, you always know. You might be confused. You might be trying to rationalize a bit too much. You might want validation and other people's advice and opinions to validate what you already know is the right thing. But on some level, you already know. And it's a matter of giving yourself permission to accept that, especially when it's a hard decision to make, especially when it's a gray area, especially when it's not always like, okay, if I do this, everything is good. And if I do this, everything is bad. Sometimes it's a mix, and you're going to have to make certain sacrifices, and you might have to disappoint some people when you do something that's what you know in your being at your core, and your intuition is guiding you, your gut feeling is guiding you, is the right thing to do. And I've recently had to make a decision like this, and it doesn't always feel good. But when I tune in to, is this the right thing? It's an automatic yes. Like I don't even have to think about it. It's a full body yes. This is the right thing to do. And why would I go against that guidance? Because that same guidance has not disappointed me when it has come to birthing my babies on my terms in an empowered way, fully informed, and leading me to the most incredibly transformative experience that has changed me ever since. And in challenging times when my whole life felt like it was crumbling, that intuition is what guided me when I could have very likely gone off the rails. And in parenting and mothering, that intuition has guided me so that I can make the best decisions for myself and for my kids. It is giving yourself permission to trust that. Well, first of all, it's giving yourself space to be curious, to tune into your body and seeing like, what does it feel like? What does a yes in my body feel like for me, individually, uniquely, specifically? And what does a no feel like for me, uniquely, specifically, individually in my body. So it's giving yourself that permission, that space to be curious and explore. And then it's giving yourself permission to trust that over logic and external validation and fear of disappointing others and fear of rejection and fear of failure and doing the wrong thing. You trust yourself enough, which we are called to do in labor and birth and motherhood and beforehand, even in pregnancy. Can you trust yourself enough to not override those signals with something else? So there are things that get in the way of us being connected to our intuition. And those things are, I would summarize it as being in survival mode and in fear. So that often will override our ability to connect to our intuition and stand firmly in that and to trust that. Especially when you might feel like, oh, people are going to think I'm stupid if I just say, I feel like this is the right choice. It's not like I have all these stats and charts and graphs and scientific literature to back it up. I just know that this is what I have to do. So there's also a fear of ridicule and being ostracized by our community, which is really, really hard because on a survival level, we are tribal and we as humans have a much higher chance of surviving when we are in community. The fear of being shunned by that community, by that tribe, it's real. So that often gets in the way of being in touch with our intuition. Previous traumas and belief systems, our conditioning, can also get in the way of that. Scientists and doctors are now showing us, specifically Dr. Gabor Mate, when he talks about when the body is speaking to us, when the body says no, we are seeing that there is a language of the body. And if we are holding on to previous experiences and not allowing ourselves to process them, then they cloud that connection. It's kind of like getting in the way of receiving a message. Like if you have your radio on and you're just not getting a clear signal. And it's because of all of these previous experiences and traumas that your body is holding on to. And so you're more so in a state of fear and survival than allowing yourself to explore and be expanded and guided by your intuition. As you move through those experiences, as you process those experiences and allow them to be liberated essentially from your tissues, and you're not being clouded by that. It's not the lens that you are seeing the world through anymore. And your survival protector parts are not coming on board to say, oh, no, it's not safe to trust yourself, because since childhood, you've been overriding the voice in your head. You've been overriding your intuition. It's clearly not safe to trust yourself because mom and dad told you to do this instead of what felt right for you. And so to survive since childhood, you've been overriding your nervous system. You've been overriding your intuition. You've been overriding what you know is what's best for you. So that protector part of you is not going to so easily just be disarmed. But as you do certain things like psychotherapy, different types of counseling, parts work, group work, healing in community with whatever modality that really speaks to you, then these protector parts begin to take a back seat. They're still there. They're still behaving in your best interest, but they're not as prominent. And they're not going to take over, and they're not going to get in the way of you being in touch with your intuition. So that's what I wanted to say about your intuition. I think some women just feel like they don't have it, but we all do. We're human, and it is a part of how we've evolved and how we have survived and how we have thrived. And it's important. So let that guide you. Practice being in touch with it. Practice trusting yourself, even if certain voices in your head are saying otherwise. And when it comes to labor and birth, that is going to serve you immensely. So I hope this helped. If you have any questions about how to connect to your intuition, Because again, labor and birth is, I say 80% a mental thing. Some people say even more, 95%, because when you take care of the mental aspect, the body responds in alignment with that. If you're acting from a place of fear, your body is going to respond with fear, and all the stress hormones are going to increase. But if you're acting in alignment with your intuition and what's right for you, your body is going to respond in the same way. You're going to expand, you're going to be led, and you're most likely going to have a more satisfying birth experience. If you have any questions, reach out to me, message me on Instagram at Dr. Cindy Tahan, and I am happy to help guide you. And I am also releasing a birth mentorship program. So for anyone who is curious about how they can get in touch with their intuition and how that can serve them and how they can just prepare for labor and birth and early postpartum overall, and they really want that one-on-one individualized kind of care throughout their whole experience, message me about that as well. And I hope this really serves you. I hope this helps you. Okay, until next time, goodbye.